Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching the VSO Gun Channel. It's great to be here as always, and thank you for watching. And while I have your attention, go check your subscription and notification settings. Make sure they're the way that you left them, because I've gotten messages from multiple of you that have let me know that you're not getting notified by the channel. So just go check it. Make sure it's the way that you left it. Thank you for doing that. Today I'm going to talk to you about cleaning your suppressors. And I suppose the inspiration for this really is that I put out a video on the Pindrop XL, which is an all carbon fiber suppressor. Link for that will be in all relevant places for you guys to run down if you want to check that thing out. But in the comment section of that video was a pretty good question. And that is, all right, man, well, how do you clean it? You can't use solvents on carbon fiber to elute the resin and stuff like that. And that's when I remembered that I've been doing this too long and that there are plenty of misconceptions about what you should and should not be doing when it comes to your suppressors that transfer over from firearms maintenance, but are not necessarily applicable to suppressors as well. And there's some considerations that you need to be aware of when it comes to those specific devices. So in light of that, I put out a short form video that kind of hit the basics, but you know, you got a 3-minute limit on that thing. So I packed as much info in there as I possibly could for that one, but I only had 3 minutes. So I'm going to flesh out those topics a little bit more today. And if you take nothing else from today's video, is I'm not telling you not to clean your suppressors. Your suppressors do ultimately need cleaned at some point in time, but you should do it sparingly. And by sparingly, I mean maybe once a year, but there are exceptions to those rules, and I'm going to cover all of that after we hear a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by the Modern Gun School. This is an accredited online university. Whether you're looking to learn a few things or trying to break into a career in the firearms industry, this place is set up to be streamlined and work for you so that you don't have to burn a large quantity of money to get an education in the firearms arts. And that gives you some latitude to pursue other educational pursuits like a business degree on top of your firearms education. So go check them out at Modern Gun School and tell them that I sent you. I'm going to start with an aid. This is a suppressor cleaning kit from Otis Technology. This is a professionally manufactured kit, and I had absolutely nothing to do with the composition of this kit. And this was actually sent to me months ago by them. I do some work with them every once in a while, but while I'm not going to use this on camera today or even take it apart and show you what's inside of it, I will throw up the label and the directions. And what you will see is that there are some things that you would normally associate with cleaning a firearm that are conspicuously missing from this kit. And that illustrates my point, and it's for a good reason. And that's really annoying. So sorry, Otis, we're going to put you off screen there. Although, you know, they've got a sign right there, so they're fine. The species that you're going to find inside your can are, for the most part, generally speaking, the same as what you're going to find in your barrel and your action of your gun. But they're going to be in different concentrations. So for instance, if you're thinking about your action, you're going to find a lot of black stuff in there, which is powder residue, unburnt powder, filler, stuff like that. But you might find you probably won't find very much copper residue from jackets and stuff like that in the action, but you will find a whole bunch of copper in your barrel. You probably also won't find a lot of lead residue in your action, but you'll find a fair amount of lead residue in your barrel. And we're not going to get into the physics of how that all gets there and all that sort of stuff, but just know that when we get to the suppressor, that balance is going to shift considerably. You're going to have a whole lot of carbon and, generally speaking, a decent amount of copper and lead in there. Much more than you would normally find in your barrel. So while I don't believe in, for instance, removing copper from most barrels for most applications, unless we're shooting like long-range precision or something like that, generally speaking, I'm an advocate of leaving the copper residue in your barrel, going after the lead. I am not an advocate of removing or targeting the removal of lead from your suppressor because we're talking about a considerably higher quantity of that stuff than what we're talking about in your barrel. For instance, if I were to take this piece of, paper with a card in it and take this copper pen here and rub this on it, it leaves, oh, that's not showing up at all. it leaves residue on the surface. Same thing with the copper and lead in your barrel. But then once that pressure drops and that expansion occurs of all those gases in that suppressor, that stuff gets collected in there. So you got a lot of heavy metals in there. So when you look at the gunk that builds up in your suppressor, generally speaking, I like to use the analogy of concrete. You've got a bunch of powdered material and some large aggregate that's kind of mixed in there. And that forms the basis of this hard mass that becomes concrete. In this instance, the heavy metals, the chunks of lead, the chunks of jacket, and the dust from both of those form the aggregate. And then the powdered material that kind of fills in around the concrete that gets really hard, that's your carbon residue. Here's a fact for you. And you OCD people are going to really hate this. I'm sorry. A carboned up suppressor will outperform a factory new suppressor. We're talking like, let's say 1,000 rounds to, like, just to put an arbitrary upper limit of 5,000 rounds, but that's not a hard number. Will perform better than a factory new suppressor. And when you conceptualize this, think of precision machine parts. They're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination when you get down to the microscopic level, but for instance, it is way more perfect. A machine baffle is way more perfect than the surface of this bench here. When you put a carbon matrix on top of that, the chaos of that surface goes way, way up. And when we're talking about suppressors, entropy is your friend. Some manufacturers, and I can think of one in my inventory right now off the top of my head, do stuff to the surface finish of the inside of the can to actually mimic that matrix. So the can getting a little bit dirty is actually a net positive for its performance. But the balance there is that we don't want the thing to get so dirty and so caked up that it then starts to occlude the flow channels in the device, right? We don't want to fill the suppressor up, because then as we deplete the volume past the critical point, well, then it's not going to be as effective, right? So there is a balancing point there where we want it to be dirty, but we don't really want it to be chocked full of gunk. Now, going back to that gunk, remember, think back to the concrete. We've got basically a whole bunch of carbon with, again, this is an exaggeration, but a whole bunch of lead and copper kind of like sprinkled throughout that create hard points for it to kind of aggregate together. There are some methods out there that are dangerous to clean with. You should not use any kind of lead removal solvents on any of your suppressors whatsoever. I'm like, oh, Kurt, well, I use it on my gun barrel to remove that. We're talking about a considerable amount more lead and copper in your suppressor than in your barrel. Again, back to this. If you look at organometallic compounds, specifically for lead, you can also do this for copper, but lead's the baddie. Everybody knows that lead's bad for you. It has no safe limit. And part of that is that it kind of accumulates in your bones and it doesn't go anywhere. And the treatment for removal of lead from your system sucks. As toxic as lead is, organic lead is way worse. I mean, specifically the method that is very controversial, and you can look this up on the internet, it's called the dip. And you basically, as a chemist in a previous life, you create peracetic acid, and peracetic acid can attack lead deposits that otherwise would not be really touchable by a fair amount of other solvents. But there are other solvents out there that are designed to attack lead, and none of those are any good for this either, because you have so much more lead in your suppressor. If you look at, for instance, again, lead acetate, it is like 10 times more toxic than base lead. Now, don't get me wrong. These are very effective ways to clean these devices, Because if we go back to the concrete analogy, it's like we went in and Thanos snapped the aggregate out of the equation really quick, and you're just left with this porous material that's really brittle and easy to break down. But the byproduct of that is you create this massively toxic soup. And to put it another way, if I handle this, and we'll assume that it's contaminated with lead, as long as I don't like immediately go pick up a sandwich and put it in my mouth, like generally speaking, I'm cool. But if I'm spraying myself, my arms or my face or anything like that with any of the soup that is created from using those things, that stuff goes right through your skin and it can bioaccumulate rapidly. So when it comes to cleaning your cans, general rule of thumb, 10,000 rounds. If it's a high velocity can, like a 5.56 can or a 7.62 can, and you're shooting 308 and 5.56 through it and stuff like that, more than that. Because those cans get hot enough and there's a high enough pressure in there that generally speaking, a lot of that stuff kind of gets blown out. But they will occlude eventually. So just keep that in mind. You will need to clean them, just not quite as rigid a schedule as like a pistol can or something like that. There is a major exception there. Anything that is corrosive. So old 7.62x39 ammo, things like that. And a big one, anything that's rimfire. You should just flat out consider anything rimfire to be corrosive. Because generally speaking, the priming compound generates a lot of excess salt. And that salt can attack the substrate of the can. And that's across the board. Aluminum, steel, certainly. Titanium to a lesser degree, but it can absolutely happen, especially if there's any galling that has occurred. You're going to want to get that stuff out of there. So in all cases across the board, and if you look in this thing, there's a soapy solvent in there, a water-based solvent. I suggest hot water and dish soap. And you want to soak it in that. If it's a non-user serviceable device, then you might consider investing in an ultrasonic cleaner to kind of break that up a little bit, but be careful on your aluminum cans with that ultrasonic cleaner. From there, a really good practice, if you have the facilities to do it, and don't sweat it if you don't, is after you've got say for instance, you don't have an ultrasonic cleaner and you got a non-user serviceable can and it's cleaning time. You take that can and you soaked it for 48 hours in hot soapy water. You take it outside immediately after you drain the excess water out of it and you shoot, 10 rounds of like 5.56 through it or something like that, because those carbon deposits have taken on a lot of water. But generally speaking, if we were to, again, look inside here, this is a water-based solvent in here. What you're trying to do is really target those salts and flush anything else out of there that wants to come along with it, not specifically trying to convert lead and copper into any kind of organometallic form that can then potentially poison you or somebody down the line. At this juncture, I think that I've well beat that horse to death. I think you guys get it. But there's one more thing that I want to mention in closing, and that is the occlusion factor. There seems to be a lot of people concerned about non-user serviceable devices filling up. Quick data for you. I've got several devices that have tens of thousands of rounds on them, and they are just fine. I have, in my career, seen two separate instances at two separate manufacturers where cans have been occluded. And what I will tell you about those specific instances is in both cases, those are non-user serviceable devices, and they're a company that has offered a lifetime warranty. Most companies out there in the suppressor game do that sort of thing. If it stops working because you think it's occluded, send it back to them and make them service it. In both of those instances, the manufacturers both thought that it was neat, and they basically gave the guy a new device and said, we're keeping that thing, and they've cut it in half as kind of like a showpiece type thing. But we're talking hundreds of thousands of rounds. And if you're shooting an ungodly amount of ammunition through your can to get to that point, most manufacturers are going to be like, thank you for the free advertisement on your dime, your ammunition budget. Here's a new device. Now, I can't vouch for that across the board, but just understand that at that point in time, you're into the customer service realm. You're not really into the material science realm of what we're talking about. So that's something completely different than what we're talking about here. Just know that it is not as big a deal as the trolls on the internet are trying to make it out to be. There's a lot of that going around. So anyway, I hope that you learned something here today. Thanks for tuning in to the VSO Gun Channel. If you have any specific questions, then sound off in the comment section down below. I read basically everything that you guys write, and I really appreciate it because it helps me come up with more ideas every single time you guys write something. So thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you on another one here at the VSO Gun Channel.